Welcome to the American Scouser TV Thursday night podcast, or as the cool kids call it, ASTV. And we get to start off with some, I think, fantastic news. Assuming nothing goes wrong, but apparently Gravenberch has been agreed pretty much and wants to get there and is flying in tomorrow, I believe, which means that the entire social media universe will probably be tracking planes better than air traffic control actually tomorrow to make sure he gets there. But I think it's a signing that everybody talked about when it was first rumored. By the looks of things on, I think Melissa Reddy's Twitter or Facebook, whatever, it's something that has been worked on for a while. What do you boys think about it, Trevor? Let's start with you.
Yeah, it's something where when we lost out on the Lavia Caicedo pair, Alan, sort out your copy paste, brother. It's something where you're going, all right, Gravenberch is the one that everybody else is talking about, and he is kind of that Gakpo-esque Swiss Army or Dutch Army. It doesn't sound as good. Dutch Army knife, where he's that guy that can kind of fill a lot of gaps wherever need be at whatever time. And for the price tag, I think it's at this stage of the game is an incredible buy.
And what do you think of it?
Yeah, it's a good move. It's a good signing. It's one signing we talked about all summer, right? If this doesn't happen, will we take this? If that doesn't happen, will we take this? And here we are in the last minute. It's almost like a buzzer beater, really. We're like, okay, screw it. We didn't get anybody else. Here you guys go. The guys you wanted all summer, we'll get them now. Yeah. So I think it's exciting. I can't wait. I'm extremely excited, and that makes me say, is this a 10 out of 10 window? What do you guys think?
Well, let's just look at the agenda for tonight so we can get ahead of what we're doing. We're definitely obviously going to speak about Gravenberch. We'll talk about whether this is the question now that might make it a 10 out of 10 window. Do we need another central defender or maybe a right back in to make it a 10 out of 10 window? And then we'll talk about the game coming up the weekend. And then for Anand, the famous threshold question, he gets his first go with that. But yes, it was something that I don't think anybody expected to happen today or so swiftly. It was a nice little surprise to check into BBC News to see it. But the first thought I had is we get Gravenberch and they got Harry Kane. Who got the better deal there?
Go ahead, Trev.
Yeah, it's something that when now we got graphics, we got production value. Let's go.
We got graphic. That's the only one we're getting tonight.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for pluralizing it. I got a little ahead of myself, but it's something where Bayern is always that team that seems to always have a dearth and a surplus at the same time. They're like, oh no, we need all of these guys, and we don't have enough of these guys, but they're all ships crossing in the same canal. You're going, how do you have too many and not enough in the same deal? And getting Harry Kane, great for them. I hope he goes and finally gets a trophy for himself, as long as it's not the Champions League, because Bayern winning the Champions League just, I don't know. It's one of those things that just never really sits well with me for reasons that we don't have enough time to deal with today. But that's neither here nor there. I think being able to bring in Gravenberch, though, like Anand said, this late in the window for that price, we're getting close to that 10 out of 10. We're hitting that one on the fraction. We're trying, but I still think there is just a little extra to go.
And I'm just looking at the stats here for Gravenberch. He has 8 goals in 8,000 minutes, so 1,000 minutes a goal. He's definitely not one that we're going to rely on to create or put teams away, but certainly somebody that could fill in maybe the Henderson, Gini, Milner role in midfield. That's going to maybe be the workhorse that makes all the creative players have a bit more confidence in what they can do going forward. Do you think that our midfield maybe might end up looking more complete than it did in the past few years in terms of the roles on the team.
Yeah, yes, I'll say that, and not only because of him, but because we got Thiago, and if you know me, you know Thiago and I go way back. So here's the thing. Today,
You went way back to the treatment room, right?
a Bayern fan called me today, and he's like, "Congratulations! Oh, what a signing! This and that." But he's been so on the decline that I don't know if he's going to benefit you guys because he's having a bad stretch of games and he hasn't played as well as he was. And I said, well, he's going to be playing for Jurgen now. This is a whole different ball game. We're going to see this kid turn into a machine. Now put him, with McAllister, Szoboszlai, Hendo, no, not Hendo, Thiago, the greatest ever, right? So put him in with these people, and now you've got yourself a complete midfield. Listen, it's not Mascherano and Xabi Alonso and Stevie in there, but we might just be a little close to that. I don't want to get too carried away and excited, but I think this is the best midfield we've seen in years because it now has creativity. One of the biggest complaints we've had the last few years, whenever it's Hendo, Fabinho, and Miller, everybody's like, wow, this is not creative. Wow, this is boring. We've got a creative-looking midfield now. We've got a young midfield. We've got a creative midfield. And most importantly, like Jota said in one of the preseason games, these midfielders can pass the ball. And I know he didn't mean it that way, but really, yes, these midfielders now can pass the ball. So maybe he's not going to cut through defenses. Maybe he's not going to score goals, but he's going to solidify that position and give our guys like the likes of McAllister and Szoboszlai freedom to do what they want to do with the ball. So I'm excited.
Well, even though Trevor, it is, I just looked at his age, he's 21 years old. I mean, there's a lot to come from this kid. But even with Endo, from what we've seen of him so far, if we assume McAllister, Gravenberch, and Jobo, that's his new name, everybody get used to it. Assuming they're the starting midfield, it's not just a midfield that can create, but it is a walking midfield as well. They don't stop running, do they?
Yeah, and that's something that with the past couple of years, as much as we love the outgoing gentleman from the midfield, it was something where there was always that. Once the 60-minute mark came around, they were looking over the sidelines like, "Yo, I'm fucking gassed. Like, can we get somebody in? Can we?" And now you got guys that are going to break that mark and go, "Okay, we're still going." And these guys that are supposedly trying to like take advantage of my tired legs, they're not there. So I think it's something more than anything. I'm trying to just put it into the least cliched way possible. Having somebody that fills every kind of role that you could see as a midfielder, like you got the passer, you got the creative guy, you got the destroyer. I think we have at least somebody in every single one of those pots now. So even if for a given week, a guy has to kind of be outside of his comfort zone for 45 minutes. There's people there that can kind of fill those gaps where a lot of times these guys, as much as we love Hendo, as much as we love Fabinho, there was never a lot of gray area. It was you're either this or you're this, and then that's it. There was no wiggle room with them. But now we got guys where there is significant wiggle room.
But in terms of, last season was a bad season for us in terms of the league. We want more, obviously, as supporters this season. It's a new midfield, a lot of a new look team. How patient do we have to be? Or would we be right in expecting a little bit more from this group, given that they are maybe on a technical level better than the midfielders we've just lost?
Yeah, that's so a great question, right? We said throughout the summer we need to get our business done early so the guys can join our preseason. We need to do this, we need to do that, and outside of McAllister and Sobo, we didn't really do that. So everybody else coming after that, which in this case is Birch, he's gonna join in a team just like Endo. 2 days later, you've got to play your first game of the season, and now good luck, welcome to Liverpool. You've got to press for 95 minutes. So I would give them some slack. Listen, the guys are putting in the work. You could see it against Newcastle, down to 10 men, and they woke up in the last 10 minutes and got going. We'll give them some slack, but just because of the quality that's in the squad now and the youthfulness of this team, we would expect them to do just a little better than we did last year. Because last year also we got hammered with injuries where thankfully we were able to discover by Cetic, and that worked out. But I'm hoping that doesn't happen this year. So I'd expect a lot more from the team. But listen, if they don't perform to that level where we were a few years ago when we won the league, we're not going to be mad at them. Oh my God, they suck. No, we'll understand. This is a new team. We're in a rebuilding process, and Jurgen's injecting his type of football into these gentlemen.
Now, the next thing we're going to try out to both of you, but I'll start with Trevor on it. In terms of the attack, we saw, just talking about Newcastle, we saw how effective and how devastatingly chaotic Nunez can be if we play through balls into his feet and let him run onto them, rather than the side-to-side stuff that happens and the sort of not quite the Brendan Rodgers style of possession, but that like looking for that little gap that Salah loves, that where you can make those little darts into the spaces. We almost, I would like to say, have a variety of play now in the midfield, whereas we knew we were going to get the long ball from Henderson. We know we're going to get the nice little chipped ball over the top from Thiago on his first touch. We knew Milner was just going to run, and then if he lost the ball, he'll just run some more to get it back, and if he lost it again, he'd run more to get it back again, and basically just be like one of those slasher movies from the 80s, but in supreme athletic form, obviously, the gorgeous man that he is. But do you think the makeup of the midfield now is going to, for both of you, but start with Trevor, is it going to change how we see the attackers, or how Jurgen places the attackers in each game?
I think it's going to give those attackers a lot more options in terms of how they're going to attack each individual defense. It's something where you not have to rely on, like you said, the long ball anymore, or having to get those little slide rule passes up the sidelines, where you have guys that can kind of get that cross-sectional pass through the middle, and then kind of have that interlink play between the guys up front. Because Gakpo can be that guy that almost is like a turnstile, where he gets it and then he knows how to find the person in either end of his periphery. And Mo is always going to be that guy that goes, all right, I see him get the ball, and if I can get to here in the next second, he'll get it to me. But if I need to come back and get it, and then I be the person that makes that pass, then we can play from there. And having these guys, especially when you're talking about the Thiago, Hendo, and Milner, they're let's just say their best qualities in terms of passing and ball retrieval and all that. Now you have guys that can do all three of them, and now it's not necessarily to the standards of those guys when in terms of that Thiago, and I'm going to put Thiago over here right now because we got an on here, a guy that can just ping a ball 40 yards on a dime, and it's going to land in the spot that he wants it. But if you got a guy that can ping a ball 20 yards and it leads to another thing, I think that's something where you can make up for a lot of the other deficiencies that these players have, that they can do everything instead of just the one thing.
Before we go to an ad, I just want to point out there, Bickler's comment here, that it's a little bit disappointing. We broke our streak of 18 continuous windows being linked with Higuain. It's not over yet, Bickler. There's still time. There's still time. And what do you think of that? I think, in terms of, a healthy Thiago is a welcome thing for anybody. But at the same time, his passing is devastating especially if a team wants to give space behind him for him to play that ball into. Do you think anybody it sounds like Trevor's talking about everybody's almost like a jack of all trades, which is good for variety. But do you think anybody's going to step up and be that devastating force that Thiago is when he's fit and healthy for us?
So here's the thing though. If you got a fit Thiago, he starts every game, and I think Jurgen agrees with this too. A healthy Thiago starts every game. I mean, an injured Thiago starts every game for me, but I won't get you guys into what I want. So a healthy Thiago starts every game. But the beauty of it now, last season when Thiago was injured, the whole season, we were like, okay, what do we do from here? Who plays in that role? We have nobody that's creative enough to do what Thiago does. This season, if Thiago's injured, which he will be, you've got guys who can get in there and give you what you want. You've got the guys like Trevor said, maybe he won't give you that perfect 40-yard ball, but he'll give you a 25-yarder, and then that'll lead to another through ball from whoever it is. So we have that full team now that we can say Thiago's out, but it's okay because this guy's going to step up. This guy's going to step up. So I'm less worried. So last season, every day I wake up in the morning, I pray that Thiago's healthy. He's not. And I'm like, well, shit, what happens now? Now, if like Thiago's not fit, I'm like, it's okay because Szoboszlai can fit in there. Maybe we'll even use Endo. Maybe we've got Gravenberch that'll be able to start. We've got all these options. And then we can't forget Bajcetic because we know he's going to come back healthy and he's also going to be available to play. So overall, we can now officially say our midfield rebuild is complete. And boy, do we need another center back. But that's not now. But yeah, our midfield rebuild is complete. We can now be confident that any game, before the game starts, we've got a complete midfield to go in there and give us the job. And like Trevor said, if it's not working out, swap, make a substitution, put in another guy to create a completely different type of chaos. Like, we know Nunez can do this. Maybe if we put him, he can do this. So we can look in one game, we can look different 4 different times, depending on who's on the pitch. So that excites me. We haven't had that in a very long time.
Trevor, we all, I think, wanted, because the rumours, I believe, started, if I remember correctly, before the season ended. We all wanted McAllister. That was, let's make sure that one gets done at least. And Gravenberch, obviously, is the marquee signing for the midfield. We have Thiago, who, as Anna quite rightly points out, when he is fit, he's probably the best midfielder we have. Is it possible, though, that twist of twists that even Agatha Christie would be jealous of, that Endo and Jobo, who were kind of under the radar a little bit, come in and actually perform or are more effective? Not perform the best, but are more effective for us because they might have qualities we haven't seen yet that we didn't think we needed.
Yeah, I think Szoboszlai has been a guy that has been a revelation since he's been here, because it was something where it was really quick. It was paid release clause. He's here. Wait, huh? What the fuck just happened? Okay. Now, then everybody goes to YouTube and checks out all his stuff with Leipzig, and you're like, okay, all right, this guy's kind of sick. Endo is more that he's more of a Wikipedia entry type of signing where you're going, okay, this guy was captain of A, B, C. He had all these stats, because you're not going to really see a big Wataru Endo highlight reel where you're gonna see him just like running into a bunch of people from Borussia Dortmund 19 times. It's not. There's nothing sexy with Endo, but he's a guy that provides, as Anand said earlier, the creative people the ability to not have to worry about, oh shit, I didn't track back this one time, everything went to hell. And that, I think, is where Gravenberch comes in too, because he's a guy, and especially if they deploy Endo and Gravenberch at the same time, in which I don't know if Klopp's ready for that full commitment to the double pivot. But we got to get it. We're trying to get him away from 4-3-3 enough. We're trying to get him to do it cold turkey. There's a lot with that, but I think that, yeah, the big word with everything is just options. There's options. It's okay. We have, and we'll talk about with Aston Villa this week. Aston Villa is a team that kind of has deficiencies at the back because, like us, they're getting guys suspended or they're getting guys injured. So there's lots of things where we could really press the attack there, and you will utilize the midfield to enhance that attack. Whereas times where maybe when we're going to the Etihad, yeah, maybe a Gravenberch Endo in there is probably going to happen. But that's the beauty of it at this point now. We're not talking about, oh, is Arthur Mello back from the dead yet? We have actual capable human beings that can give us options.
And then just in terms of here's what I was thinking, here's what I think almost when I watch Endo play. And granted that he's getting up to speed, so we're not seeing the full impact of what he can do yet. But he reminds me a little bit of Lucas in the sense that his game seems to be incredibly simple, and he seems like he's aiming to be more effective than flashy. And Lucas, if we remember, got criticised for not being the best technical football player. But when he was out, we missed him like hell because he did a lot of the mopping up work that I believe it was either Eric Cantona or Zidane said about what's his name again? Now I've forgotten his name. The French manager.
Blanc?
No, not Blanc. The one.
Deschamps?
Say again? No. The one that's the current French manager.
The champ.
Yeah. The little one. He was the water carrier of the team. The little one, the little one. He's that size. But his game was based on being effective. Lucas's game was based on being effective. He wasn't the number 6 when he came in originally, if I remember correctly. But he did that role so superbly that we would have rather have had him at times with his knee injury on the field than not have him on the field at all. And it seems to me, just watching Endo, that is it possible he could become that player, that secret weapon almost, that we didn't expect anything from him, but suddenly, where's Endo? Why isn't he on the field?
And it is possible that we see that. I think Endo isn't getting, the talk that he's supposed to, just because it was kind of a panic buy. We're like, okay, we've just lost Lavia, we've lost Caicedo. Oh, there's this guy, Japanese guy. He's a captain in Germany. Endo, sign him up. And I think that's why he's not getting the credit that he should. He's a very, very smart footballer, very high football IQ. Here's the thing. I didn't know much about him, but watching him play, you can tell he's got high football IQ. He can win the ball back as soon as we lose the ball, and that's what we've lacked for a while. Now, listen, is it going to take him a time to get up to speed at the Premier League? Absolutely. Against Newcastle, and I'm very glad he said it too. He was a little lost. And, in the interview post-match, he said that this was a hard game for me to get accustomed to. I like footballers that can say that, because that makes the supporters know, okay, he knew he did bad, which only means it can only get better. Because he's not going to come out and be like, oh, dude, I was absolute shit, but I'm going to be great. I'm going to be, great. No, he came out and said, I'm going to improve. I'm getting used to the team. I'm getting used to the league, and it's going to get better. So that's what excites me about Endo. Not the flashiest, like you said, just like a Lucas, but he's going to go on to be one of those guys where we're like, oh, God, he's suspended. What do we do now? I can fully agree with you on that. I already feel it. And was he a panic buy? Absolutely. We just lost on all our holding midfielder targets, and then we're like, oh, shit, okay, here's this guy. I guarantee you, even Endo didn't know he was coming 2 days before. And all of a sudden, he's like, oh, shit, I'm at Liverpool. Yeah, definitely a panic buy, but one we may go on to fall in love with. I fully agree with you.
So let's move on a little bit now from the midfield to there's still 24 hours-ish or 48 hours-ish or whatever of left in the transfer market. There's an amount of time. Do we need to bring in another defender, given that it's quite possible that Van Dijk will be absolutely hammered for the descent portion of his red card rather than the red card itself? Kanate is he's missing Thiago, something rotten, so he's decided to join him several times in the treatment room. And Matip is not getting any younger, and Gomez is Gomez. He doesn't have, I don't believe, any more levels above what he has shown us so far. Is it time that we dipped in and bought one more central defender, Trevor?
And especially because we just let Kazi's favorite Nat Phillips go to Celtic. 1,000%. I'm breaking the percentage scale. There needs to be, and I don't care if it's an Endo panic buy at this point. We need a body. A month of Joe and Joel with having to put Endo in there for the last half an hour, maybe, because he can do that in a pinch, is going to destroy my liver to points where my doctor is going to recommend new medication for me. I can't do a month of Joe and Joel. There needs to be something in there, because I agree, Virgil is going to not get the lightest of slaps on the wrist from him calling, despite it being an accurate description, the referee a fucking clown. That's not going to elicit a positive reaction from the governing bodies. And Konate, and the thing that always not necessarily angers me about Konate, but frustrates me, is his injuries come out of nowhere. They always happen behind closed doors. It's never like, he got hit like studs up, and that looks bad. He may have done his knee there. It's like he tripped over a dandelion walking into the training facility and messed up his hamstring, and he's going to be out for a month and a half, and then he's going to have a setback, and you're like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, why? How did this happen? You were doing so good. You kept your bubble wrap intact.
Is it possible, because I think we saw today as well, Nat Phillips has gone to Celtic for at least half a season's loan, but it's another defender. Not that Nat Phillips was knocking on the door really, but he was still a body.
But a body's a body.
A body's a body, yeah. But is it possible that move was made fully with an eye on bringing somebody in, even if it's on loan, in return, to make sure we have the numbers at the back? Are we going to see Stephen Cocker back?
That's all I was ready to say that. We get Stephen Cocker back.
Striker.
Darwin gets injured. Stephen Cocker plays up front. Boom, it's Cocker season. I mean, this is such a perfect way to set this up. My God. I literally just Googled him like a few minutes ago when we started talking about this to see if he's still playing. We're good. We can get him. It would be cheap. It'd be a loan. We'd be happy. But listen, yeah, Nat's gone. And that just tells you that somebody's going to come in. I just don't see that we're done. And listen, don't call me a conspiracy theorist because I am definitely not. Okay. But let's do some math together.
Oh, don't have me do math. I'll break the internet.
Konate's injured, right? Misses last match. We're about to face Aston Villa. He's still injured. He's not going to play because he's out injured. But he gets a call up for France today, which means he's going to be able to play in a few days in their qualifier. What if this is a smokescreen from Liverpool to say to Al Ittihad, who were coming in for a bid for Konate, F off, don't, he's injured. And Al Ittihad would be like, okay, this guy is injured. Maybe we don't want to sign him right now. We want somebody that's ready to go right away. Listen, I may be crazy, but Konate may not be going anywhere, and he'll be playing in a few days for France. He's fit. This game against Villa, they're just going to keep him out, stay, recover. But this whole injury thing, I don't see it being true just because the odds of it. Al Ittihad knock on the door, he trips on a dandelion and tears his hamstring like he said. The math ain't mathin', man. Look, I'm no genius, but I don't think Konate's that injured. I just think this is a smokescreen to get the Saudi clubs away from him. And then they decided to come in for Gomez, for the love of God. I'm more confused than they are.
I gotta agree with Bickler here. I think that would be a very fine non-conspiracy theory if it wasn't for the fact that he's been tripping on dandelions for a long time.
I agree with that too. That's why I'm like, this conspiracy isn't mathing, but still, I gotta throw it out there.
In terms of we're joking about Stephen Cocker and there's a Bickler's cheeky loan bid for Guardiola as well. I mean, that's a good call. It is a no-brainer. But is there anybody out there we could get that would come to us that clubs aren't going to hang us out to dry on? Or are we going to be looking at a stopgap signing, as I said, like possibly a loan for the year? Or is Arthur Milo been training himself as a central defender to come back and show us that, he was a player once? Or maybe Calvin Ramsey is actually a real player and then he's doing the same thing. But let me tag on to that. What I think
you're just making up names at this point.
That's true. Yeah. Let me tag on to that now. Just it's one appearance in a desperate game, and you cannot draw any inferences from it whatsoever. But Kwanzaa looked quite comfortable at that level the other day, didn't he? Is it a case that Klopp saw that and went, you know what, we might be actually okay because I matted it all out as well in German math, and Konate will be fit after the Villa game.
I really hope that that's not the thing. I think there needs to be a in my head, because we talked about it a lot last year. The Southampton raid needs to start. They have just a cavalcade of center backs that are somehow still there. Go get one of them. Just pick one out of a hat. I don't care which one. Just go do it. And that would do me good.
And is there anybody on your radar that you think that we could get or should go for, either short term or maybe even long term?
There isn't somebody short term good enough right now that's on the market that we would go in and pay some decent money for it. We're gonna have to splash some cash. The way I see it is, unfortunately, stick with what we have now, and in January make a move for someone. Maybe go, raid a Southampton. Maybe go raid an Aston Villa if, depending on what it's looking like. But right now, there isn't anybody that stands out. We're like, wow, he's got to, we've got to sign him. He's that guy. This is the solution to our problems. Maybe a loan, maybe a Steven Cocker type of loan where we would just use it as a fill in the gap for now. But it looks like we're going to be using the youth. Kwanzaa looks solid, built like a brick. Seems like we're not doing. I don't know,
man. In terms of, just before we finish this part, in terms of it's not a bad point now, because Klopp does have a surprise tendency sometimes to say we're okay with the guys from the academy for now. They always look great for the future, but their youthful flaws are always at the same time incredibly obvious. Did you see, and Trevor as well, did you see any flaws in Kwanzaa's game in the short appearance that he had that made you go, maybe not? Or would you trust him, not as a starting central defender, but certainly as somebody who could rotate in when Matip is doubled over, breathing like Joe Cole after 10 minutes of walking? You go with Trevor first.
Yeah. He's the biggest thing I saw with Kwanzaa is he just doesn't look scared. And that's something that a lot of young guys will come in and then they're like scared to touch the ball. They're scared to go near people. He kind of just played, and that's refreshing. Yeah, he's a young kid. He's gonna make mistakes. That's fine. I can accept that. I'm gonna yell, but I'll accept it. I don't want somebody that is not. Their mistakes are going to come from trepidation, where they're like, oh, I didn't want to go in and make a tackle here, so I didn't go near the guy, and then he just walked in unencumbered and scored. That type of shit, that will piss me off more than you going in and like giving up a penalty or something because you were trying to like do something. It's and especially with like these academy kids, I'd rather them try to come in and make an impact and really just not necessarily cement themselves, because he's not going to be a starter, but make just a good account of yourself where you can come in and you know that you're only going to be given 20 minutes with Klopp substitution patterns. You're going to get about 18 minutes, and what you can do in those is going to give you more opportunities, and it's going to give you chances to, I don't know, maybe get an expanded role. And if it's something where they kind of taper him up with the amount of time he's playing and he can handle each bump up, then that's just great. What do you think?
And now, do you think we could be okay with the kids, or do you think they really should push the ball out in whatever time is left in the transfer window?
The preference is to sign an experienced player, right? But with so much little time left, with no names out to pick out of that hat, we've done well with the kids a couple of years ago when we had Nat Phillips and playing alongside. Oh my God, I'm blanking.
Thiago.
No, that's the answer to everything. I agree. Rice. When Nat Phillips played along with Rice, and they did well. They weren't the best. They made mistakes, but they did okay. So we're going to use Kwanzaa maybe 1 or 2 matches here and there if needed. I don't think it'll be a problem, but come January, I would like for us to solve that problem so we can move on.
So speaking of moving on, let's move on a little bit to just like the last bit. This last year we started our best mids as centre backs, but we'll move on to the next part. The Villa game on Sunday, a nice early morning game for us over here in American Scouser land. They're a tricky proposition under Emery. He's done, not to besmirch a great player's name, but he has done the absolute polar opposite with Villa to what Steven Gerrard was doing to him when he was sacked. They're a tough team to play against. It's only 3 games into the league season thereabouts, so you can't tell anything from the data right now, but they do look like they're a threat to any team. But they also have their own issues. Is this going to be the game we thought we were going to get against Newcastle, which, if I remember correctly, was from the pre-match, was this open, legendary, high-scoring game? Are we in for another tight game and possibly with 10 men yet again, Trevor? Oh, Anand, sorry.
I really don't want it to be a trend. I really don't want this whole 10 men thing.
I'll tell you this. In the preseason, when we were in a morning show and we were talking about teams that were expecting to have a good season, I had Aston Villa. Here's the thing, though. We're also having a decent little season so far, right? I think this will be a more open game than what we saw against Newcastle. I think both teams are teams that heavily rely on their fullbacks and their crosses. So this is going to be an interesting one, but I don't think we'll have an issue with Villa like we did with Newcastle. So I expect this to be a high-scoring game on our end and a very low-scoring game on theirs. So I'm seeing like a 4-1 kind of game, like 3-1 possibly. So it'll be good. It'll be a tricky first half, but as soon as Nunes is unleashed, we're okay.
Trevor, as much as the game may have been easy for them, certainly going from the scoreline, they did play today against Hibs, and they're not like us in the sense of or City or Chelsea or United or whoever, Arsenal, who are used to the midweek game cycle. Do you think it's going to have an effect on them in terms of the preparation, in terms of how they play, especially any of the players who are the regular starters, or will they take comfort from the fact that they were only playing Hibernians of Scotland and be still as fresh as a daisy? Because, again, it was Hibernian from Scotland.
Yeah, and if it was anybody but Unai Emery managing them, I'd say this kind of like shock to the system of having to do these midweek games would kind of mess him up a bit. But he's going to have those guys ready. I have no qualms about that. And I think I was the one calling for like a 3-2 against Newcastle, but almost kind of like how when Pope got his red card, Virgil's red card kind of put the kibosh on that shenaniganry for us in that one. I think Villa's the team that they feel like they can go toe to toe with people. They don't need to be that kind of negative team anymore where they make 700 passes, but they all go 5 feet from each other. I don't think they're that team anymore where they try to just kind of hope you slip on the banana peel and then Ollie Watkins gets his one shot and scores, and then they're like, yay! They're a bit more dynamic now, but I think that also opens them up because, as I was saying before, they are beat to shit in the back of their house. They have a lot of people that are either out or already playing injured, and I think that's something that we can take advantage of.
And how do you see the lineup going from back to front? And I'm going to assume Gravenberch is not going to be ready for the game in terms of registration, etc., etc. And we're going to assume Van Dijk is not going to be playing. I don't think there's any delays on those suspensions, at least for the red card part, if not for the descension. So
Gomez and Matip start in the back. Trent and Robo, obviously. And I think we go with the same midfield we did against Newcastle. I think it's going to start the exact same way. There's no need to shake it up because there's no reason to. I am still all for Darwin starting. But I think we might see Darwin becoming that second half type of player where go out there and get the goals. Against a team like Villa, with the way Emery plays with three in the back, so maybe do keep Darwin till the end of the game when the three are exhausted as shit, and now he can come in and run chaos. So nothing changes. It's the exact same Newcastle lineup with the difference of Van Dijk being suspended. So Matip and Gomez will be in the back.
Trevor, do you see it the same way, or do you think there might be a change up somewhere?
Yeah, the only change I can see, I don't think Darwin's going to get run, but I think.
Are you thinking Jota for Diaz?
That's the one I'm thinking, because, and it goes back to what I wrote about on the site this week. I think this is the week that Jota gets to start. It's kind of like almost like a meritocracy. Thank you for everything you brought to the second half, and then you just let Luis Diaz did what Jota did last week and just let him murder for a half an hour. And I think that would just, because they don't necessarily do the same thing, but they can bring that same pace and precision with their scoring, that I think that if you bring either of them off the bench, Klopp can kind of just amalgamate that front to just make whoever he puts in fit. I was going to say like 7 words, and I just went with fit. So, yeah, there we go.
Brian Shelton is concerned about Matip's stamina, and I believe Matip's wife is also of a similar concern. So I've heard. So just we'll go to Trevor, then we'll go to and the question is, and we got this so spectacularly wrong on Saturday. What's your score prediction, Trevor?
Oh man, yeah, I gotta come down a couple branches off the positivity tree. We can't do a 32. So I'm gonna go. And I'm not to the point where I can do a clean sheet yet. I still need to get a couple of those in the bag before I start feeling as if I'm not going to get hit again by that weird goal that came out of nowhere from a misplaced center back pass. I haven't broken through that level of therapy yet, but I'm going to go 2-1. 2-1 to the good guys.
And what say you?
3-1 for us. I said earlier it might be a 3-1, 4-1 kind of game, but I'm going to stick with 3-1 just so I'm not overly positive. This way, when the fourth goes in, I'm like, oh no, I'm shocked. But yeah, so I'll do 3-1 for now.
I'm going to book the trend and spoil it for everybody, and I'm going to say 3-0. I think that 3-0 is going to be the score. I think we're going to get that clean sheet this weekend, and I don't know why I think that, but that's what my prediction is. And we know my predictions are always fantastically wrong.
Whatever's in that cup you're drinking, we both want some.
It's gin milk. Now, this is an Ad's First Thursday Night podcast with me, at least. And so we do the threshold question. They're usually quirky questions, but sometimes they're philosophical. So tonight we'll do a philosophical for each of you before we go. The philosophical question is this. Given that we cannot tell the future, would you have kept Henderson, Milner and Fabinho for one more year? Or are you quite happy with the midfield we have now, knowing we don't know where it's going to go in the future? Trevor, we start with you.
Oh man, I think with how, oh god, because I that stability, that's the word that I always kind of just trust fall back into. It's knowing what you know versus not knowing what you think you know. And I think these guys will gel, but there's a lot of variables when it comes to our new favorite word, options. And if things kind of go south, everybody's going to kind of go like, well, you shouldn't have let all these guys that were such staples of the club go in the manner that they did. That hindsight, I I'm a person that has too many regrets to look back. Anyways, I think this is something where we can kind of just wash that slate clean and go, yeah, it would have been optimal to have at least one of that three stick around and be that kind of that rock and that kind of just mentor. But the fact that we've had to just completely dispatch that era and what we have now, maybe one of these guys, and I think Szoboszlai is one of those guys where he's already like an international captain and he's in his early 20s. That could be the guy in 5 years where like, oh, okay, that's why we did this. Okay. All right, I get it.
And Anne, what do you think? Are you happy with what we have, or like Brian Shelton is, or do you think you would have liked to have kept that stability for one more year?
So you said philosophical, and I'm going to hit you with the philosophy right here. If we don't let go of our past, we won't know our future. And this is where we are. We had to let go of that past to get into this future, and boy, is that future looking bright. We've got a young midfield. You said it earlier, Macka. They're all young. They're all going to only get better. They're only going to improve. Versus what we could have kept for another year is what we saw last year. It would have been just the same thing. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I assure you, if we had that same midfield as we did the first 2 games of the season, we would not, especially against Newcastle, we would not have won that game because it was minute 80 and our midfield with one man down was still looking for creative balls to get it through. And then Salah moved in, got the ball, and was able to play that to Nunez in added time. With the other midfield, with no disrespect to them, would have been Milner and Hendo just calming them down and just pinging the ball back and forth with Alisson until the time runs out. So listen, to move on, you've got to let go of the past. I am extremely glad of the signings that we've made. I am extremely sad of the guys we let go, but it's time to move on. Thank you, Hendo. Thank you, Milner. I think we had a guy named Keita. I don't know if you guys know him. Thank you, Nabi. Yeah, Arthur. I appreciate everything Arthur did in that 14 seconds, but the future starts now. This is one of the most exciting midfields we've seen in a very long time. So, guys, enjoy it. It's only going to get better from here.
I think I could probably agree. The only thing I'd add to that philosophy is that gin milk is fantastic. Everybody should try it. That's that for tonight's show. We have the Fantasy Football League show straight after, so make sure you stay and tune in. If you are heavily involved in that particular cult, which I'm not this year because I was so dreadful last year. I'm not one of the poor unfortunates.
I lost an average this week.
So we have the Friday show tomorrow morning. We have the Monday podcast. We're back next week. We have the EPL review show, the EPL panel show, and probably a pre-match and a post-match for this Sunday. We can all talk more about hopefully the nice unveiling of Gravenberch, and we can talk about how lovely he looks in the shorts and the jersey. Beautiful creature that he is. So it just remains for me to say thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Anna. It was fantastic. As always, we will see everybody else next week. Like us, subscribe, smash those buttons, but don't break your keyboards because you might need them for the comments. And then make sure you follow us on the artist formerly known as Twitter, the Instagram, the Facebook. And I'm saying all these definite articles like an old person, and all the other social media things that we have. And we will see you next week. Peace out.